Hey mama, you are listening to Coach the Mother, where postpartum recovery gets real, raw, and deeply rooted in who we are. I'm Dr. Natalie Forsell. I'm a pelvic floor expert, a postpartum fitness coach, and a mama who has walked the long road of healing and recovery myself. Here, we're ditching the outdated BS, demystifying healing, reclaiming our strength, and giving the modern mom the wisdom they should have been given from the beginning. This isn't about bouncing back. It's about returning home to your body, your power, and your whole damn self. Let's coach the mother. I'm so excited to be here with you, Mama. This is my very first podcast, and there is no better way to start this journey with you than to share my story of who the heck am I? How did I get here to be a postpartum coach online and a pelvic floor physical therapist? This journey started for me well before even having babies, and I can't wait to share this big picture with you because what I do is so integral to who I am and how I love to serve moms and why I'm so passionate about it. But let's draw this story back to 2017, well, earlier than that, honestly, but I was managing a physical therapy clinic, and I had the privilege of just being around so many really intelligent people. There was this student coming in from USC in California. She was in her clinical rotation, and she had known a lot already about the pelvic floor. That's something she knew she wanted to pursue after she graduated. And so this was my first experience or realization that this niche existed, was meeting this really special human being. And as we talked, I just shared what had been normal for me growing up, and her reaction took me by surprise. But essentially, since as long as I can remember being a little girl, as early as 3, 4, I really struggled with urgency, having to go to the bathroom so suddenly. It just took over every sensation of my body, and lots of leaking and accidents. Of course, when I was younger, those urges were so strong and I could not control them. But as I got older, everyone thought I would grow out of it. And guess what? I did not. So yes, I wasn't completely peeing my pants by the time I was in 6th or 7th grade, but I still had such a problem with holding my bladder if I really had to pee. And I was the youngest kid in my family. Everyone wrote it off as just, Natalie's so annoying. Natalie has to stop the car because she has to pee, or how that made everyone in my family so aware of me and just really tried to push on me to go to the bathroom before I left the house. And that seems normal enough when you're dealing with kids. But I think there's just so much fixation on this, because how many times did I have to get everyone to pull over the car, and how irritated my parents would be, or just really embarrassing stories of we're going on a family vacation and we're sitting in a cab and we're about to get to our hotel destination. I have to pee so bad and it hits me like a freight train, and then I'm crying, I'm sobbing, I'm leaking. Everyone in the car is yelling at me. We're almost there, 5 minutes, but by the time I get there, I have half wet myself, and I was 8 years old. So that's what I grew up with. And at a certain point, my mom did want to seek some advice. And so we went to, I don't know, a pediatrician or something. I was 11, and we talked about my symptoms, what I was experiencing, and the doctor basically handed me this pamphlet with 2 cute little old people on it and said, "We have this workshop. Why don't you take your daughter to this?" And I was like, I don't want to go to a geriatric workshop on incontinence. I'm 11. How mortifying, right? And my mom didn't make me do it. We did not go. And that was the end of the story. That is the only advice that I got in this experience growing up. And other hallmarks of urgency, it's called a lock-in key syndrome. As I got older, 16, 17, could drive my own car. As soon as I would get to round the corner onto the block where my home was, that urgency would hit me so hard. And then from that corner I turned to my front door, I was losing my mind. I just had to pee so bad. I would leak a little bit and barely make it to a toilet way before I even had kids. So that was my life. That was normal. I met this girl in 2017, and she's like, that's not normal at all, and we can change that. And I was like, I don't believe you. So she offered to do a pelvic floor exam on me, took her up on it, found some things I never knew about myself. And then we just talked about what it looked like to help change some of these. And what's so crazy to me is that I did not see her for a bunch of visits and we didn't do a lot of work together. It was a pelvic floor exam and some knowledge and awareness of my body and some simple tricks. 2 decades of struggling with urgency gone in less than 2 months. And my mind was blown. I was like, why don't we know about this? Especially, there's just so much we don't know about a woman's body. That is for another podcast, but that was my entry point in awareness. And after working at that clinic for a while, managing it, I really felt like I wanted to take that next step and become a physical therapist. And this clinic that I was at was super sportsy, orthopedic. I was an athlete growing up myself, and I just loved working with athletes. That's what I really thought my passion would be, was orthopedics and high sports performance. And I was so excited to really pursue that, but then also maybe have a little side quest or interest in pelvic floor because it was interesting. And there is overlap, especially with female athletes. There can be a lot of pelvic floor dysfunction that I later learned between lifting heavy, leaking, whatever. So when I went into school, I didn't go in full throttle for pelvic floor, but definitely knew it was there. And then the other parts of my story started to evolve with getting pregnant in PT school. In my doctorate program, I was in my second year. We were beginning our clinical rotations, and my husband and I decided that we wanted to try to grow our family. We had been together for at least 5 years, married at that point, and I thought we could handle it. We could figure it out. We can make it work. And so we were really excited and were gifted to get pregnant relatively smoothly and quickly, which we did not expect. And so my rotation for my first pelvic floor rotation started in my second trimester, and I had a 10-week rotation scheduled and just loved this clinician that I got to be supervised by. She was so incredible, super hilarious, loved to make dirty jokes, and just made her patients feel so at ease. And I just really got to see the full picture of what this work could look like. And we saw everyone. We saw women past menopause, we saw young girls, we saw men, we saw women in their prenatal postpartum journey. And so I just also was really excited to absorb as much as I could as I was entering this, or I was pregnant, prenatal. My body was already changing, and then anticipating a birth and how much I could learn to improve that experience for myself. And that is another piece of the story that just totally changed me and shattered me. When I was in this clinical rotation, halfway through, I was 22 weeks pregnant. And because of my schedule, we were a little late for the anatomy ultrasound, a few weeks behind. So we get it scheduled by the 22nd week, and everything is fine in my body. I don't feel any symptoms, but if you can imagine where I'm going with this story, it ended in surprisingly finding out that we were losing our baby. And that whole experience, I can also share in more detail because this podcast hopefully is also a space for the bigness of this whole experience. And I intimately know what this type of grief feels like. But it was such a big surprise to my husband and I, and it is never a good time to physically experience something like this, but also just the position that I was in as a student, having to return back to keep up with the cadence of school. All of it was just so crazy. And this was my initiation into motherhood, this loss. I had to be induced. I had to go to a hospital to birth my baby. I had to experience the body changes that come with postpartum, my breast milk coming in, how to manage that. And I got 4 weeks. I got 4 weeks off. And after a loss like that, and it was a vortex, I honestly can't even remember what happened in those 4 weeks. I survived it, but it really crushed my soul. And I was really nervous to go back into this clinic setting to just be around pelvic floor, anything, women. And my supervisor was really life-changing. The way that she did her job very well, but then also so tenderly held space for me and allowed me to practice, but also take a break if I couldn't handle a specific story. And there were some really beautiful, but also hard stories that you come across in a pelvic floor room as a clinician. And I remember this one mom who had come to us and she was experiencing some tailbone pain, and she had had 11 miscarriages, and she had had some of her own biological children. She had adopted some children. It was healing in a sense of I was able to engage with and share my story when I needed to, and then also be able to receive and hold space for other people with this new type of pain that I now knew so closely, and how that impacted my relationships with the clients I was taking care of. So that is what really solidified my love for this profession. Was, yes, there's so many practical and tangible tools, so much science and research that goes into my work, but also I really value the relationship with the mother, and hence the podcast Coach the Mother. Is I love to build a space with moms that feel safe for them to figure their way out through this huge transition of life that involves everything, mind, body, and soul. And the pelvic floor work that I've done integrates all of these layers together, right? We are a whole human being and we are very dynamic, and our emotions directly impact our muscles and our bodies. I got through that clinic rotation, and my husband and I got pregnant relatively quickly after that loss. And so moving into the remainder of my schooling, and then COVID, it's all of these layers, right? I felt like internally things were starting to change in me from that loss of my daughter. Lillian is her name. As I was pregnant with my second daughter, I had a lot of time to tend to myself because of COVID, the isolation, the slowing down of school a little bit. I just had to finish some clinical work, but I got to really pay attention to myself, which was a gift in some ways, really hard in other ways. But when I gave birth to my daughter, Madison, my next baby after Lillian, I hoped from what I had learned so far in my experience through pelvic floor that I would have a pretty smooth birth and a breezy postpartum. I knew so much about the body, and I had the privilege of being able to prepare my body as best as I could for this birth. I was so completely wrong. Every birth is so unique. Madison's birth was a 60-hour labor. I planned to do a home birth. That is not the way it turned out. My water broke a little bit. I started to feel some contractions, super inconsistent. And so because of the water breaking, I was on the clock to have some progression for the sake of monitoring any signs of infection or whatever when your water ruptures. My midwife was incredible, and she let me stay home as long as possible, but at a certain point there was some need to non-urgently transfer to a hospital for closer monitoring to make sure that I, again, didn't endanger my baby in any way. So I was able to transfer to a hospital with her. She had privileges there, so I never had to see an OB. And again, I'm so grateful for that, but it was a long journey. No matter what I tried, what crazy inversions, what exercises, my body was just stuck at this 4 centimeters dilated. And then we started to augment with some Pitocin, slowly try to get things to ramp up. That wasn't changing anything after. But then once I got on a full dose of Pitocin over 24 hours, I was just at the end of my rope in terms of my exhaustion. And my midwife, at some point in the journey, she comes in and she's like, the doctor on staff changed and he is wanting you to get a C-section. What do you think about that? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. But what do you think? Do I need to? And she's like, well, I think he's kind of grumpy. I don't think he's in the best mood, and all the signs show there is no change of heart rate of you or the baby. There are no signs of infection. Essentially, there's no signs of distress. So you can keep doing what you want to do as long as you want to do it, as long as these things look fine. And so I'm like, great, that sounds good. I'd like to try that. And so she's so gently was like, okay, well, we're going to have you sign a AMA saying that you're essentially wanting to disregard his opinion or advice here. You're not going to accept his services. And I'm like, sounds great. So that happened at some point. I don't know. It's a time vortex when you're laboring. And then we get to the part where I'm just like, hands up, I'm so done. Whatever we need to do, I don't really care at this point. And this was hour 59 or whatever. Get a little bit of pain medication to relax because I had asked for an epidural at that point. So they planned to give me a little bit of fentanyl to get my body to chill out, and then they would come in with the anesthesiologist. Whatever happened after I received a little bit of that pain medication, my body just like chilled out, opened up, and I went from 4 centimeters to 10 centimeters in a matter of 30 minutes. And I was so surprised by it because I had kind of dozing off at that point after some pain medication. And I wake up just screaming because apparently I'm in transition, but I don't know it yet. And my midwife comes to check me and she's like, I think you're going to have a baby. And then I was actually so sad because I was like, I'm so tired. I don't know how I'm going to push this baby out of me. I have no juice left in the tank. And so she's like, well, time is up. We're going to figure it out. And so they helped support me. They got me into a different position where I was sitting and holding onto some handles on the edge of a bed. Gravity was going to help me get this baby out. And that was another really miraculous thing after the endurance marathon of just the laboring and the contractions, the not progressing, the transition through to the pushing and birth was 20 minutes, if that. I think I pushed 3 times and she was born. And so I'm so grateful that I was able to continue to have a vaginal birth, that I had my advocate and my midwife who was able to be alongside me the whole time. That birth did not go the way I hoped it did. And so many births don't. And then he came out the other side with so many problems. I did not have a C-section, but outside of that, I had almost every issue you could have. I had back pain, leaking, leg numbness all the way down my left thigh. I had super painful sex. I felt so out of body, ab separation, core weakness, and I had no clue what to do next. And that kind of snowballed into all of the other parts of my story, carrying in some of the grief, feeling really out of body, struggling with a birth that I didn't expect. I was suffering and I couldn't figure out how to help myself. And part of me waited so long to ask for help because, at least in the physical sense, I thought I should know better. I should be able to figure this out on my own from all of the knowledge and training that I have. And so it took me a while to ask for help. I tried to figure it out on my own. After that birth, I did try to go the traditional care route, and I've worked in insurance settings, and I had some colleagues that I knew of or some people that came recommended to me. So I went to go try to see a pelvic floor physical therapist. Emphasis on try was extremely difficult. Again, we were in COVID. My husband and I don't live close to family. We don't have any childcare support. And so whatever I needed to do came at and my husband's a business owner. So if ever I need something like to go to an appointment, he has to rearrange his schedule to make it happen. It was just hard to get out the door in general, even with just one kid. And so when I finally got an opportunity to do that, I went somewhere. I had a very specific list because of the things that I did know of here are the things that I'm most concerned with. Here's what I think is going on. Can you assess me and help me figure it out? And this practitioner, unfortunately, was just not great. And I went to the first session and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't quite listen to exactly what I said was the most important thing to me. But I can imagine that this takes, a few steps, a few tries, and it'll click or some things will get better. And so we tried for about 3 sessions, but by that third one, she hardly listened to me and then would pass me off after 30 minutes to her PT aide to do some hamstring stretches. But she knew from the very beginning what I was trained in. And it felt, I don't know, it just felt so frustrating and isolating to feel like I'm even trying to take the right steps and they're still failing me. And like, I don't need to know how to do hamstring stretches. I've already been doing that crap at home. I quit that physical therapist and I went back to, I'll just try to see what I can do on my own. And I got a postpartum fitness plan from a personal trainer online who looked like she had a good like 12-week program. And so I gave that a try and I followed it to a T, but the whole way through, I was like, this isn't it. Like, yeah, I'm working on my glutes and my core, but like, this is not addressing any of my problems. It's not going to help with my leg numbness or my pelvic pain. And so I just let it lie, like so many of us do. When you hit walls or you hit barriers and you don't find answers, you just sit in your pain. And there's enough of our lives already as moms are just so chaotic and stressful. So, like, just table that and think about it later, even though it was impacting the way I felt about myself, which impacted my relationship with my husband, which impacted the way that I engaged with my newborn. And I just really wish I had a buddy to walk me through this, to give me guidance, structure, answers from home. So, in that kind of sea of suffering, I continued to get clinical experience. I had this plan after I graduated to go back to that clinic that I managed because I loved the people, I loved the environment, I loved the sports, and then see if I could swirl in some of my pelvic floor interest. At this point, though, I'd become a completely different person. Motherhood does that to you. You just, what you think you used to value, all of a sudden changes when you give birth. And so, this place that I had so looked forward to and longed to be a part of again, I went there and I worked there, and everyone was still amazing. And I still loved the staff, but there was something different about me. And I felt like I didn't really fit there anymore. I didn't really care about the super sportsy athletic population. I cared about the pelvic floor population. I tried to slowly build that caseload in the nooks and crannies, but it just wasn't the right environment for those types of clients. And eventually just felt like I really needed to kind of step back and reevaluate like what mattered to me and what I wanted to do professionally, while I was also navigating all of the identity like crisis, physical struggles, like there's just a lot of struggles happening. And so I needed some space to kind of recoup. And then, right as I gave my 2-week notice and I was having my last week of work there, I found out that I was pregnant with my next daughter. So part of that felt a little serendipitous, but that moment was like an aha moment for me of like, I'm getting pregnant again. I'm only 9, 10 months postpartum with my last daughter. And I'm really scared of what will happen to my body if I don't figure out how to heal and take care of myself before I enter this next birth, right? And so then that really lit a fire under my booty to make a solid recovery plan for myself, gather my tools, gather my resources, start from scratch and from the ground up a program that I wish that I had, that now that I had been through postpartum once, I could really better understand how to scaffold the training components, the recovery components. And so when I created this 4-phase healing protocol and I gained a lot more information about birth prep tools, I went into the second birth and postpartum so differently, and it changed everything. Maeve's birth was a successful home birth, and it was just textbook perfect. It was start to finish, woke up at 3 a.m. with some contractions. 6 a.m. active labor is starting. 9 a.m. she was born with 9 minutes of pushing and no tearing. And it was amazing. It was so redeeming, but also so exhilarating to feel like when I know my body well and I serve my body well, how much of a difference that can make in the birthing experience, but then also the postpartum recovery. I followed my 4-phase protocol and I had none of the things that I had after my first birth. No leaking, no painful sex, no leg numbness. There was some ab separation that's pretty normal, but it healed quickly. And I felt like I was able to regain my strength so much faster following this program. So then out of that excitement of feeling that success in my own journey, I started to share this protocol with friends that I knew that were birthing because I wanted to know, okay, it worked for me, but does it actually work for other people? And so that was the very beginning stage. That was back in 2022, so 4 years ago now. And I to really get a taste of like what something like this could do for moms and how it not only helped me, but how it was really helping and changing the lives of friends that I had. It was really great. um, and something else they don't tell you about motherhood sometimes, maybe just me, I don't think that it is, but how it can really wreak havoc on generally like your esteem and like your identity to your core. Like everything that I thought I was before I became a mom just felt shattered into a million pieces. And what I had built, the things that I learned, the tools that I gave, this recovery program that I made was so valuable, but also I felt completely, I don't know, just incapable, insecure, unsure of if this was something that I should do. I was so in the thick of parenting two under two, learning how to do all of that world that it felt impossible to start a business at that phase of life, start to build this momentum and share it with the world. And so I sat on this beautiful dream to help moms virtually for another few years. I would kind of help some moms here and there, but I did just work in other settings. I had worked for a little while as a concierge cash-based PT that I would go to homes of women. So I had this little referral network I built with midwives and other health practitioners and would go drive to women's homes, do treatment plans and help that way, which was also incredible. In my mind, the dream there was to help remove barriers, just like the virtual program, to help moms be able to feel supported at home without having to go through the struggles that I did of trying to coordinate childcare, get out of the house, and then have it not be great care. But I found out that was like me trying to stay within still this traditional model of care with hands-on work, seeing moms in person, doing things how I would do in a normal clinic setting, but just in their homes. And I felt the limitations of that, even of moms just having really hard time to be consistent with some of the printouts that I would give them or exercises. I learned a lot from those experiences, but it was a lot on me to drive around everywhere, and it just wasn't really the complete picture for the moms to heal well. And so I also have tried an in-person clinic job, which was again really beautiful, but women pay an arm and a leg to go there. They pay $250 a session to see me. They see me 4+ times a month. So that's easily $1,000 in a month span. And that is great. It's high quality care, but it is a privilege to be able to afford that quality of care. And I know that. And so another appeal of this virtual company that I had brewing inside of me was the ability to remove as many barriers as possible, but still deliver super high quality care to moms and support, because not everyone can drop 1K a month on this type of quality service. When I finally took the leap to put it all together, I think it started as me just wanting to do a little side project, make a little more money, help some moms, and this virtual program would be a great alternative to the high sticker price, high quality care of a cash-based clinic. But then as I started to walk this out and develop this 4-month coaching program, I was finding, compared to all of the different environments I've worked in, insurance-based clinics, a concierge-based in-home care, cash-based clinic, I was seeing that my virtual clients were getting better faster in almost every domain because of the way that this program works and how it worked for me, how it worked for my friends. It's so simple to follow. I know what it's like to be a mom of 2 under 2 or multiple children and have almost no margin to fit in any type of movement or exercise. So I built the whole system to be very easy or manageable to plug into your daily life. That doesn't take 45 minutes a day. That doesn't make you do it every single day a week, but they're highly efficient and effective tools that work. And it is also the difference between in-person traditional care is here is a list of 4 exercises to do this week. Do them on repeat until I see you next time. Maybe we'll change some of it, maybe we won't. But the difference of having a workout or recovery system where a mom just plugs into her portal, she sees her workout for the day, and you spend 15 minutes doing it. You can pause it if you need to help baby. You can do it while baby's napping. You can do it with baby on the floor next to you. It's just so convenient and flexible and takes all of the mental load out of that work for the mom. And then the support. When you go to a clinic, you see me once a week if you're lucky, and you have to wait between those sessions to ask me questions. But with this virtual program, you have immediate access to me. So if you have a back spasm or a flare up, you don't have to wait a week to ask me what to do about it. You can get in touch with me that day. We can work out a thing. I can publish some more recovery tools for you, and then you can nip it in the butt. So instead of dealing with back pain for the next 2 months, it's gone in 4 to 5 days. So that type of access to me is so valuable. But then also I online get to show up as myself. I get to bring all of my life experience as a mom, all of my clinical training, all of my relational capacity to be able to not just tell you how to fix certain problems that you're dealing with, but also how to support you as a mom. Where are your barriers in your day that are making it hard for you to take care of yourself? Why is that? Let's talk about it. Let's strategize ways to communicate more clearly with your partner about what some of these needs are so that they can show up for you, because they want to support us, but they don't know how. So there's so much of my work that goes into not just giving you the practical tools, but also the relational and emotional tools that you might need to help tune back into your body and reorient yourself, to reground yourself, which I couldn't do in the clinic setting. This is my mission. This is the purpose of my whole system here, of my postpartum recovery program, of my birth prep program, of my digital recovery bundle, and now this podcast. Is I just want to educate and support moms who have no answers and 1,000 questions. I want to change the expectations around postpartum care and the access to recovery. I am so grateful that you listened to this whole thing. If you tuned in for the entire time, I'm so proud of you. Sometimes telling a story can feel so long-winded, but this is me. This is where I'm coming from, and I can't wait to support you in this whole perinatal journey. If you want to learn more about my postpartum recovery program, you can see the show notes below for the link to my website. From the website, you can see all the details of the program. You can apply directly from the webpage itself. I review an application, and then we'll get in touch about next steps. Thank you so much for tuning in, Mama.